Hi everyone and welcome to Haunted Connections. So we're bringing this to you from the Haunted Antiques. No, we're not. We're bringing it to you from the Paranormal Research Centre.
From here.
In Hinckley, Leicester. And we've been looking forward to these sessions because we're going to have a slight twist on it now. Running up to ParaMeet, what we decided to do was to get all our guests, speakers, who will be talking at the ParaMeet. We're going to get them all on over the next few weeks, running up to the ParaMeet, so they can talk to us about what they're going to talk about or anything new that they've got, or, just anything in general, really. So tonight we've got our lovely Penny Griffiths-Morgan. Hello, Penny.
Hello, my lovelies. How are you?
Yeah, we're all good.
We're good. We've just been saying it's been a long time since we had a chat, isn't it?
It's about I think it's nearly a year, actually.
Probably last year's ParaMeet when you came up.
Yep.
Yeah.
When I came up on the Friday and I talked all things workhouses.
That was fascinating, wasn't it?
It was good. It was a really good night, and everybody said how much they enjoyed it, how knowledgeable it all was, and how much they learned from it, and it was just a really good night.
I think the good thing about your talk last year about the workhouses, everyone's ideas of the workhouse is actually wrong.
It's like a lot of things. I mean, I'll give you an example of something else I get quite passionate about, and I won't be doing the talk. I can tell you what my talk's going to be this year if you want to know, but
yes.
Okay, I'll tell you in a minute then. But I was in. there's this secondhand bookshop in Chelmsford. I live in Chelmsford, and it's a charity secondhand bookshop. I love the place. I mean, you can pick. I picked up. Hold one sec. This looks really unprofessional. Me doing this. But I picked up that book by Susanna Lipscomb, which is called The King is Dead. Now, I'm not a Henry VIII fan, but it's Susanna Lipscomb. £2.50.
You get some good stuff, don't you?
It's almost unused. But anyway, I was in there chatting to the main guy who runs it. And we were talking, I can't remember what we were talking about, but it got on to I think we got on to Richard III. And he said, so did he kill his nephews? And I said, no, I don't think he did. And then somebody else was, why do you not think that? And I said, I don't think he was the bad guy that history has painted him to be. I said, because it's more Shakespeare that painted him to be like that. It's more the Tudors who painted him to be like that, because they, in effect, usurped him. They stole the throne from him. And sort of talking about this, like how much propaganda can affect. I think one of the problems with workhouses, the Victorian workhouse, I'm not talking about parish workhouses that came before that, but part of the problem is how Dickens wrote about them. And a lot of people take Oliver Twist as being exactly, no, they weren't nice places. They weren't, but they weren't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be a hotel that people wanted to go and stay in. It was meant to be, you were at rock bottom. But what nobody ever looks at is how many people they would have saved from starvation. The elderly that lived there that would have died living on a doorstep, basically, because there was no pension to pay for them when they couldn't work. The fact that for a lot of people it was the only place they could get any kind of medical care, albeit not great for the first few decades, but medical care. The fact that from the get-go, children between the ages of 5 and 12 were taught to read and write, which they would have had to pay for. And nobody ever looks at that side. Like I say, they weren't nice places. But if they were as bad as a lot of people think them to be, there would have been an awful lot more scandals.
Yeah.
And there weren't as many as people think. So I don't think they weren't a holiday camp.
No.
But they also weren't. I mean, I think the biggest insult I ever got given was when I was trying to explain the history of them to someone without looking at 21st century sensibilities. I got called a white supremacist Nazi.
Well, there seems to be a lot of that about, doesn't it, at the minute?
But they said, no, they were nothing more than concentration camps for the poor. Well, why do you say that? Well, they had to work in them. Yes, it was a work house. If they were able to work, they worked for their keep. Yes, the work was horrible. But it had to be, because they couldn't take money away from those people who were on the outside trying to earn enough to feed their family and pay their rent. And so when you look at it that way, it's it's still not great. You wouldn't want to have to go into one, but that's why you had to, but also they did society did sort of paint them to be really bad, and there's a real stigma attached because they didn't want people to go in.
Yeah.
So
we're in a completely different time now, aren't we? And we're in a society now where people expect to be given this stuff, whereas back then, like you say, people were grateful to be allowed in, weren't they? People had to apply sort of to go in.
Oh yeah.
You know,
it wasn't easy
and stuff, and you know, that was so much better than living in the gutter or dying in the gutter.
That's what people don't look at. It's not the people who went into the workhouse weren't the ones who lived 6 or 7 people in one room and had only were able to eat meat, I don't know, once a week. Those weren't the people that went in. The people who went in were the ones who had no shoes, had one set of clothes, which occasionally they'd pawn item. So in the summer, they'd pawn their coat so they could earn, and then would try and get another one for the winter. Most of them had no sheets because they pawned all their bed sheets. Those are the people that went in who were at the level of poverty that I don't think we can comprehend.
No.
There were people who weren't necessarily there were people who did, they kind of were nicknamed the bouncers, who bounced in and out of the workhouse. Charlie Chaplin's mum, she was one of those. But when you look further at her, it was quite obvious she was just suffering from some form of mental illness. And that's why she bounced in and out of it. But it would take, they reckon, about 7 to 8 hours to be admitted into the workhouse. 7 to 8 hours. It only took 2 hours to leave. And the only reason it took 2 hours wasn't because they were trying to change your mind, is they had to go to storage where your belongings were and bring them back. And that's why it took. So I think it's one of those things that we look at too much with 21st century eyes, or even 20th century eyes, that we shouldn't treat people like that. But for them, it might have been a bit of a sledgehammer to crack a nut solution, but it was to try and provide a solution, because, and we weren't going to talk workhouses, but it does actually lead into what I'm going to be talking about in September. But the problem was, when you had just parish workhouses pre-1834, the parish was responsible for financing it. Now, you and I, we both know, you go to certain areas of the UK and the population is older, or if you went to somewhere that was predominantly agricultural, the likelihood of that population needing welfare when the farm was not hiring or whatever. So certain parishes had so much of a drain on their finances, they couldn't afford it because it wasn't cross-subsidied. The whole point of the work union, the poor unions coming in, was to cross-subsidise those parishes who had the higher levels of poor, for want of a better term. So there was a logic to it, albeit it took a long while for it to be acceptable. But then I think come to just when it didn't finish until, well, after the end of the Second World War, I think by that point society had got to the stage where it wasn't acceptable anymore. It went on a bit longer than it should have done. But I just, nobody ever talks about the people whose lives it saved. They only ever talk about how abhorrent it was to have to share a bed, how abhorrent it was to only have meat 3 times a week. In the outside, they'd have had it even less. So So no, I disagree with the fact they were concentration camps for the poor. Certain areas were worse than others. The inner city ones were horrible, but so was the inner city. You know, it wasn't.
That's the inner city, isn't it?
I've looked through one of the workhouse registers for, I've done Epping because of my new book that's coming out, and also I looked at Chelmsford's as well. The amount of them, people said the only way to leave the workhouse was in a box. That's what I've been told. Well, I've gone through those registers more, and I went through, I think it was 2 years for both of them. More people left because they discharged themselves than died. And the ones that died were what would have been classed then as elderly. So, but hey, what's a good fact to spoil people's views, eh?
Well, the facts, sometimes the facts are pretty boring though, aren't they? Compared to the stories.
calling me a white supremacist Nazi isn't as interesting as learning the actual facts of the case. No, I suppose not. But
Yeah, I think that's actually beats mine. I was called
An abomination.
abomination. So
oh, okay, yay!
I've got a title. You got a title.
And after that, what's his face? Oh, Stalker. He called you irresponsible, didn't he? So you were an irresponsible abomination.
Well, I think when we were masking up during COVID, I had a message from someone saying what was it she said? I was wearing a disgusting satanic mask and she wouldn't follow my page. She really went off on one at me just for wearing a mask.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I actually did get called the spawn of Satan. And I was just like, I've had worse.
Yeah. Beelzebub said, never let the facts get in the way of a good story.
It's true.
It's true. Very true. Very true.
I have heard that before. But that's kind of why I started up Haunted Histories. Because I was so sick of the baloney I was reading about places. And just so that people could charge for someone to come and investigate it, because they didn't have the ability to explain, well, actually, no, there doesn't have to have been a horrific murder here for it to be haunted. There doesn't have to have, it doesn't have to have been used as a orphanage to murder children. Oh, believe me, some of the rubbish, some of the rubbish I read. I want to know who Beelzebub is, actually. Because they've just put probably that lad in the gym's mum. I put a post up recently. I lift weights, as you both know. That's how I keep fit. And I've started pushing myself to do exercises that I'm not as confident with, I'm not as strong as. And one of them is a bench press. Women don't tend to be as strong on a bench press, but I got really upset recently. I'm a sensitive little soul, contrary to popular belief. I am. I was doing bench press and my husband, Wayne, who you've both met, was with me, helping me because I'm not confident with it. And there was two lads, probably in their mid-20s behind me. And one of them was laughing about the fact his sister can only bench the bar. And then he said, oh, I've seen people only benching like 2.5 kilos either side.
Yeah.
Which is what I was doing. And it really, really jarred me off, because as far as I'm concerned, if someone is in the gym and they're doing the work and they're pushing themselves, it shouldn't matter what level the weight is. It's the fact they're doing it.
Yeah.
And would Beelzebub be Mr. Biff by any chance, Karen? But yeah, so I think that's what he's alluding to, that this guy, I mean, unfortunately, when the guy went up the stairs, I did give him the glariest eyes in the mirror, praying that he was going to fall down the stairs. He didn't. So what I am now hoping is that when he was walking home, he tripped over a pavestone and smashed his face in. That's kind of what I was hoping.
Well, Beelzebub just said, too many people stick to lifts they are good at. Do the best is you're not good at.
Yeah. I'm legs, anything to do with my legs, I'm incredibly strong. I can outlift. I mean, I can't outlift most men. But when it comes to upper body, even though I'm strong for a girl, there are certain lifts I'm not so strong at. And I'm trying to incorporate those to get to improve, so I can see an improvement. But it was just so not how I look at people in the gym. If I look at someone and they're not lifting a heavy weight, but you can see they're trying and they're doing it, I'm never going to laugh at the fact they're just using a 2-kilo dumbbell. I applaud them for getting in there and getting on with it. And it upset me. It upset me at the time.
He just says, damn, busted.
Yeah.
It is Biff.
It's Biff. It's Mr. Biff. Yes.
Yeah, busted Biff.
Yeah, so I love going to the gym. It's my therapy, especially when it's leg day, because I'm good at leg day.
You like your leg day. Kevin's just said, just started going to the gym after 38-year absence.
Good for you, Kevin. Keep going. Keep it up. Don't give up after the first few weeks. No, keep going.
Last time I went to the gym must have been about 1970.
I wasn't even born then.
What?
I wasn't born in 1970.
Oh no.
Not long after, if the truth be told, but I wasn't actually around in 1970.
Okay. Elsie Bob says stuck with that name for 2 weeks.
It's a good name. It suits
I
you.
like it.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
Mr. Z-Bub.
So how's your Haunted Histories podcast going then, Penny? Is it going well? Is it going from strength to strength?
I will admit the podcast isn't as frequent as it used to be a couple of years ago, because the books have taken over, doing television work has taken over, my day job's got busier. So I kind of thought, well, juggling everything. So I'm doing probably a podcast a month. A podcast a month. The one I've just done most recently was on we're talking about sort of Transylvania and Romania with an amazing tour guide called Vlad Blaj, he's Romanian, but if anyone's thinking, I can't, his English is perfect. He's got an accent, but his English is absolutely perfect. So go and have a listen to it, because it was absolutely I could have talked to him for hours. He was so interesting, and his knowledge of his country and his passion for talking about his country. That's amazing. I've got a few sort of published historians coming on hopefully later in the year as well. So I'm mixing and matching. It's not just thanks, Karen. It's not just mystery stuff. It's not just hauntings and everything. I am talking sort of history, and the one I did before Romania was called The Merry Monarch with a friend of mine called Charlie White, and that was all about Charles II. And again, her passion for her subject and her knowledge, and she's a good friend of mine, but her knowledge, I was blown away. I'm really lucky because I'm kind of bridging the two fields now. I'm known by historians, and I'm known by the paranormal people, and because I can slant talk whichever way I need to. Historians, if I approach them now, don't automatically go, what are you going to talk about? They're normally more than happy to appeal to a different type of audience to what they're used to. So it's I enjoy it. If I didn't have a full-time day job, and if I wasn't writing a book a year, and if I wasn't researching for television shows and ParaMeets and everything else, I'd probably do more. But I do have to spend some time with the family. I do kind of have to make some time for them.
Yeah. Is that what you're supposed to do?
Apparently so. They get a bit upset if I don't.
How do you fit it all in there?
I don't know. I get asked that frequently. I think the fact that I've got a very understanding husband who knows when I say to him, I'm going to the records office for the day, can you look after the kids? As long as I don't do it every weekend, he's okay with that. If I sort of, when they're sitting watching something on the telly and I'm sat at the other end of the living room researching, but for me, the research side, it's my drug. It's I just get lost. And I mean, Jane Harris wrote the foreword to my new book, and she put something along the lines of, I swear Penny has got some part of the dark web or something, where she finds all the information, because she can find out dark stuff about any part of the UK. And I don't know how I do it. It's true. I think it's the case that I just dig and dig and dig and dig, and then go, eureka, because but I enjoy researching, and because I've always got questions about everything. I'm always looking for answers, and I'm a nerd. I am a total nerd, and
nothing wrong with that.
I
keeps me happy.
Really, satisfying when you're sort of looking through book after book after book, and you find the answer, and you get that eureka moment. And
I tell you where I normally get the eureka moments.
The same as you, but it's like, yes.
Yeah. The place I get the most eureka moments are old news articles, because I find, because you can get them sort of from the 1750s onwards, and yes, all right, the wording changes and you have to be careful with spellings and stuff. But the amount of times I'll suddenly find the mention of something that is a tiny little thing, and it's in this newspaper article, and it gives me a whole new route to follow to find more answers out. And yeah, there has been more than one time where the dog has been asleep on the living room floor and suddenly jumped up because I've gone because I found some tiny little thing, but it's just that I'm researching my next writing project. I'm started researching for, and it's about a pub in Southend, quite a modern pub. And I was in the records office all day the other Saturday, spent 6 hours plowing through stuff, didn't find anything, and I'm getting really frustrated. And then I found the mention of a business that was occupying the premises before it became a pub, which nobody knew about who runs the pub. So just that one little thing has given me a whole new slant to go off on. So it's a weird drug, but it's not too expensive, especially because so much is online. The most I pay is a train ticket to the National Archives.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make me gain weight. It doesn't make me act a twit like I would if I was drinking. And it means I can also stay in my house and I don't have to deal with anyone else. So yeah.
You don't have to deal with people. Is that what you mean?
Some people. There's a lot of people I like, but there's also people who
You're a bit like me then. There's a lot of people I like, but then there's a lot of people just want to slap. Especially lately.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Now, Kevin's put which pub is that? Is my local area. I can't tell you, Kevin. You'll have to keep an eye out.
Kevin.
It's all a bit secret at the moment.
So you were the first guest that I invited to be a speaker.
I know.
ParaMeet again.
Still pinching myself for that.
Why?
I still pinch myself for that. I don't expect things like that.
Why? No, if you weren't any good, Penny, I wouldn't have asked you back. I'll be honest. No, but seriously, when we decided that we're going to have a ParaMeet again, you were top of the list. Obviously,
you did tell me I was one of the first. Yeah, I was one. I think you even said to me, "These are the dates I'm thinking. Can you make it? Because if not, we'll change the dates." I think that's actually one of the things you said to me, and I was just like, "Oh, he's joking." And then I'm thinking, maybe he isn't.
No, it's because you couldn't make it on the Saturday last year, and we really wanted you on the Saturday or Sunday this year because we knew it was going to be a whole weekend event. And plus, you got another part of the ParaMeet as well, haven't you? You've agreed today. Because on the Saturday evening, we are going to do the big investigation. Penny is going to be in. She's going to be like the Most Haunted. She's going to be the historian corner.
She's going to be doing speed research.
No pressure. But it's going to be good fun. I reckon.
Yeah, it will be. I am doing a little bit of reading up on the venue first, so I kind of have ideas of some of the names and stuff, which I won't tell anyone what I find, but I will have some notes and ideas of where to look for things and just to help me a bit. But yeah, I'm kind of quite sort of, that's the first time I'll have done that, so it's going to be interesting. And yes, Kevin, I will keep you posted. Follow Haunted Histories, and you'll know what's going on.
Oh, good. Yeah, obviously with that extra job that you're doing on the Saturday night, there's no pressure. I want you to enjoy it as well.
Oh, I'm sure I will. There's such a cracking group of people going to be there. Friday and Saturday. Yeah, Friday and Saturday. Yeah.
Friday is just going to be a big boozy night, I reckon. There's quite a few of us starting Friday night.
I don't drink anymore, so I'll be the sober one. I'll be the sober one, filming everyone making tits of themselves.
Yeah, I don't drink either, so I should be okay. Plus, if I drank, I should be in bed all day Saturday, and that wouldn't look good, would it?
Well, that's the other thing. If I'm going to be doing speaking and stuff, I don't want a hangover, so I need my sleep. But yeah, I mean, I met up with Dr. Kate Sherrill.
Yeah, she's coming back.
Yeah, and we were talking about that, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so excited! We're going to be able to spend a whole weekend together." And yeah, it's nice because a lot of your speakers are either people I've known online for years, or if you are personal friends like Kate, So
Yeah.
it's going to be a great little get together. It is going to be a great. But yes, I have got my talk. I can't even remember when I'm doing my talk on my Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember. Can't even remember my own name at the moment. No.
I think it's Saturday.
I think you're Saturday. I actually think me and Jane are going to move to the Sunday.
Are we?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I've been working on my talk. I've been working on it for the last few days. I can't do it too far in advance because I have so many different projects. If I do it too far in advance, I'll forget it. So, but I thought, seeing as I'm so fascinated by the Victorians and their treatment of the poor.
Is this the big reveal then?
This is the big reveal, what I'm going to be talking about now.
Okay.
You probably know that a couple of years ago, reaching for the book, I wrote this book, Paranormal Playtime, The School That Never Sleeps, which is all about the British school in Hitchin. So I thought, which would be a nice segue in from talking about workhouses, I would talk about the education for the poor.
Okay, cool. That's
so you're going to have terms like Dr. Bell, Madras Method, Lancasterian, Dame schools, Robert Raikes, all these kind of things are going to get thrown out. And I'll talk about a few of the spooky things I've had happen to me at the British school.
That's good. That sounds good. Looking forward to that.
So there you go.
Biff says, Penny, if time travel was possible, would you want to go back in time to see how things were, or would that spoil the enjoyment of research?
Oh,
point actually, isn't it?
Yes and no. I think that would be a type of research. If I could go, I mean, this is a conversation I had with it was the historian Dan Jones. I'll just drop some names in here. I met him at a book signing for his book, Essex Dogs. Brilliant book if anyone's looking for a historical novel to read. It's superb. I mean, Dan Jones is superb anyway. Lots of bad language in it, lots of people getting killed. It's historical stuff as well, which he then cites the original sources for. So it's really good. Anyway, I was chatting to him and I said, do you believe in ghosts? And he said to me, and I've had other historians say this, he said, it would make my job so much easier if I knew I could speak to someone from that era to find out the truth. And it's true. It would make it easier. But would I want to time travel to every single period I'm ever researching? There's a few that I would like to time travel to find out just what did happen with Richard III's nephews. That's the sort of thing I would like to time travel to. But to sit in a workhouse and see if it smelled, see what the food was like, see what the behavior was like, no. Because there would be 400 odd workhouses. You'd have to visit every single one because they'd all be slightly different. But specific events like Richard III, did he, commission the murder of the deaths of his nephews, or did he hide them away? Things like, was Elizabeth I in love with Robert Dudley, or were they just mates? That kind of thing. That's something I would like to see.
You'd have to get in court there, wouldn't you? Into the court and see what's going on.
Yeah, but those are the things that aren't so well documented. It's those periods of history that would be good to be able to visit.
Yeah.
Anything from, the Georgian period, King George's onwards, is so much, even before that, Charles II onwards, is so much better documented. It's a lot easier to read different accounts and then put the pieces together. If that answers your question, Biff.
Yeah.
Yes and no is the answer.
Yeah, good answer. Kevin says, if you could go back to any time period, which would it be and why?
Well, seeing as the talk I've done before at the centre was on the Air Transport Auxiliary and the women who flew for the Air Transport Auxiliary in World War II, then I'd want to go back to then and see what it was like. I would love, and I know this sounds weird and it's not glorifying war, I would love to be stood there when a squadron of blooming Lancasters flies over me.
Yeah.
I would have stalked Guy Gibson if I was around then. He would have had to take a restraining order out on me.
Okay, another question from Kevin. What has been the most bizarre, unexplainable, paranormal experience that you've had?
I've talked about this one a few times. There's been a few, but this is the one that I think was possibly the weirdest. Well, there's two possible. I'm going to go with one I haven't mentioned for a while. So, and this isn't to get sympathy, what I'm about to. I lost my sister when she was 19. I was 22. So we're talking a good few years ago. Lots of weird stuff happened to me about the 6 months after she died, which not uncommon. About 2 years after she died, I broke up with my then boyfriend, moved into a house that I shared with a friend. Now, my sister died on the 5th of December. She never bought Christmas presents early, ever. But that year she had, and I was the only one she'd bought the Christmas present for, and it was a mirror. So that mirror was quite precious to me afterwards because it was the last thing she ever bought me. And I was in one of, those very solid Victorian terraces, workers like terraces you can get, solid brick, aren't they? There's no rattly walls or anything. I was off work ill, and I had the mirror it was on one of the middle walls. So not an adjoining wall, in the middle of the house, still a solid brick wall. And I know it was there on the wall because the reason I was off sick is I'd had an allergic reaction to something, and I was all spotty and swollen. Sounds horrible. Piriton job. And I'd gone to check my face to see if any new spots had come up, rash had come up. And so I knew I'd looked in it. And about 5 minutes later, I heard a crash, and I thought it was my housemate's room. It sounded like someone had put a ball through our window. And she was very funny about people going in her room. But I thought, sod it, I'm going up there to check on it. And I went up there. No, everything's fine. But I definitely heard this glass crash. As I came back downstairs, I heard another noise in the middle room, and I went in there, and the mirror was on the opposite side of the room, on the floor, balanced up against the wall, hot. It was hot to touch.
Yeah.
Not a crack on it. It somehow had gone off the wall, across the room, and was hot. I mean, I actually went, sort of when I touched it.
Yeah.
I must admit, at the time, I told my sister off and said she could have broken the mirror, and I wasn't very happy with her. And sort of, this probably happened about 3 or 4 more times. When I then bought my own house about 3 years later, it was in my bathroom. I'd actually got a chair under it because I was reaching up to adjust it, left the chair there. It flies off the wall again and smashed. But it kept flying off walls and not just dropping. It didn't just drop. It would projectile.
Really?
Anyway, that is probably one of the weirdest things I have had happen to me. Especially with all the sort of knowing what I know now, 20 or 30 years on, all the paranormal connotations and mirrors and big portals and everything else. So no, I haven't done any scrying into that mirror because the mirror doesn't exist anymore. But that was a very, very strange. I mean, even then, I wasn't doing the paranormal back then. But I was thinking, I tried to make this wall vibrate in the old house. I tried to see if there was any hot pipes. Which some of the pipes weren't hot. There was no pipes in the walls, no radiators it could have landed up against. And this was within like 5 minutes, this all happened. So, yeah, that's probably my weirdest, or one of the top 3 weird things that have happened to me.
Weird. Okay. Biff says, great talk, the Women's Auxiliary.
Thank you.
It was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I did enjoy talking that.
Yeah. Kevin says, have you ever converted a skeptic?
Yes. My dad.
It's a good feeling, isn't it?
It's my dad. My dad, he's nearly 80, although he probably won't like me telling people that. Engineer, mechanical engineering degree from Brunel University, very scientific, all that stuff. We were doing, it was actually for a haunted experiment. We were doing an investigation at RAF Tibenham, which is an old US Air Force base, actually where Jimmy Stewart flew from. And so it was my husband, myself, Mark Dudley, and Gaynor, who came with me to the auxiliary, the ATA talk. We were doing the investigation there. And the next day, because I was staying at my parents in Norfolk, my husband was up before me, and he was telling my dad some of the facts, things that we'd gleaned. Yeah. And my dad actually found a record that correlated exactly with some of the communication we'd had through the spirit box. Exactly. No question. And from that, he was like, how did you know this? Like all the thousands of flights that would have gone from there in its time.
Yeah.
How did we know this information? How did we know this guy's name? How do we know how many flights he'd done? How do we know the date he disappeared? But it came through. So from then on, he's still not he doesn't believe everything unequivocally. But as I've said to him, that's not a bad thing to question it. Like question the setting, question what's happening. But no, now if I sit down with him and say, can you help me pull this apart, or can you help me look into this or something, he'll do it without laughing at me or like poppycock sort of thing. So yes, my dad, I've converted him.
Yeah, I should never forget that night when we were doing a seance.
Yeah.
This bloke, total disbeliever, but he was in tears before the end of the night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Kevin also says, what's the oldest building you've investigated?
Not the oldest building, but probably one of the oldest places was for my new book. Obviously, I did investigations in Epping Forest, and Epping Forest is Ice Age. So that probably beats most places.
Yeah.
Cool.
Beelzebub. Must be a year since investigating at the gliding club. Me and Mr. Biff. I think he means me and Mrs.
He means Mrs. Yeah, he's written it down there. Yeah.
Me and Mrs. Biff really enjoyed that. How's Lucy? Ain't seen her face.
Oh, he means Lucy Lou. He means you're Lucy, your research historian.
Yeah, you'll be seeing Lucy Lou soon, hopefully. She's okay.
Yep. So yeah, she's good. She's good. She actually edited my most recent book, which should be going out next month, I hope. There'll be copies available for people at the ParaMeet to buy at a slight discount.
I was going to ask that. Are you bringing copies of all your books? I hope so.
Of course.
Good.
Of course. Girls got to eat.
Kevin says, do you think there's heaven and hell, or just a positive and negative energy? Well, that's a deep question.
It is a deep question, blimey. The answer is no. I don't believe in heaven and hell. I'm not religious. I believe in energies.
Yeah.
I do believe there's positive and negative energy, and I think we all have a combination of the two. Just some people it's weighted more one way than another.
Okay. Haunted Auckland, Paranormal New Zealand. I think that must be Mark. It might be.
It says Amy.
Oh, Amy. All right.
Amy, yeah. Paranormal New Zealand.
Paranormal New Zealand are actually on Ghost Planet Network. So if you want to see their work, watch Ghost Planet Network, which we've not mentioned yet, have we?
No. No, you haven't.
Okay. Amy says, what do you think is the most overrated piece of equipment which many investigators use? Oh, it does say Amy, yeah. Good question, Amy.
Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Yeah, I don't think there is one piece of overrated equipment. I think the problem is people overrate using a single piece of equipment. Does that make sense? So I think a K2, yes, that's all you're going to use for your investigation. But if you're going to use it in combination with other things and it all correlates. So if you've got and I read somewhere someone said that flashing cat balls can go off by EMF. I don't know where they got that from because I've never read that before. They go off by motion. They don't go off by EMF. But if you've got someone suddenly feeling faint, you've got noises appearing, you've got the K2 shooting up, you've got the Mel meter going mental, and you've got the balls flashing like crazy, everything at the same time.
Yeah.
But if you're only using one piece, that piece should be just you. Does that make sense? In my view, if you're not going to buy gadgets, and you don't need to, use your own senses, use your own intuition, use your own how your body's feeling, and that is the most underrated piece of equipment, the human body. Yeah. But I think the most overrated, it's not a single piece, it's using pieces in isolation, is overrated.
Good question, though, Amy. Nice to meet you. Well, let's ask you that question, Jane. What do you think is the most overrated piece of equipment?
I think things like the spirit box, where you just get the noise and you get all that white noise, and it just you get the odd sound and bits and bobs, don't you? But some of it you can't really, it's inaudible.
Yeah.
It is. I've had some amazing results using a spirit. That information I said that turned my dad from a skeptic into a skeptical believer was down to a spirit box. It was giving us direct responses. So when we said, "What's your name?" it gave us a name in an American accent. When I said, "How many missions have you flown?" we got a number in an American accent. And yeah, sometimes it is you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, trying to work out what it's saying.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I mean, I'll give you another example. Like I say, I rarely run one piece of equipment on its own. I normally have at least 2 or 3. And it's one of the things in Epping Forest. It's in the new book. We'd gone walking about this bit that was notorious for highway robbery, because it was this really. They actually changed the road layout because of it. And my sons were arguing. I mean, kids arguing. And on my Ovilus, it said silent. And at the same time, on the spirit box, which my eldest son was holding at exactly the same time as it said silent on my Ovilus, it went shh at the same time.
Yeah.
Same time.
I think when they work well, it's okay. But I think the repetitive sort of white noise sometimes it does sort of drive me mad a bit.
Yeah.
And then you get the odd sound, and then people saying, "Oh, it said this, that, and the other," trying to make it fit to to what's going on.
Yeah. That's why I say I never tend to have just one piece going. But I mean, I say I have had stuff come through on most bits of equipment that I can't explain.
Yeah.
That fits in, like especially when you get 2 Oviluses say the same word at the same time.
Yeah, that's good.
I know there's science behind how they work and everything else, but I would love to know what the probability is of 2 or 3 things saying the same word at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
When you can't program it in, things like that. I still think we've got a lot to learn, and it's not. I always say to people, I don't know whether it's ghosts, but it's definitely paranormal, because we cannot explain it. Therefore, it's not normal.
That's right.
I'm quite sort of, quite sort of vocal about that one, and I have to explain that to people sometimes what I mean by that. But there is something. It's paranormal, but what it is, we're not 100% sure of.
Yeah. Amy says, "Love the answer." Martin says, "Had a brilliant night Sunday." He came up here. Kevin says, before I do Kevin's, I'll read Anne. Anne says, "You are the best piece of equipment, but unfortunately to a viewer, they can't see that as evidence," if that makes sense. It does make sense. However, I love personal experiences or person's feelings if they go into a room. It's not evidence, but then is a cat ball going off evidence? I love it when people say, "Oh, this room just doesn't feel right." To me, that's their evidence.
Yeah.
Even though you can't see it, I love that.
It's their experience, isn't it?
That's why that's easier than on television. It's easier to write it because you can write exactly how you're feeling and you paint the picture for the person to be in you, if that makes sense. If you can paint the picture of you can use the right descriptions to describe how you're feeling and what it's doing to you and everything else. That's why it's easier to give that. The medium for that is writing, where unfortunately with a lot of television, although programs like Are You Haunted have proved that you don't need loads of fancy flashy gadgets to make an interesting program. I think it depends on what medium you're using to convey what you're experiencing. But
Kevin says, "Do you prefer electronic equipment or Victorian era articles? Eyes and ears are best benchmark. I had so much activity with cat balls and spirit boxes."
I have no leanings either way. I tend to go in, if I'm investigating somewhere, I'll go in with lots of possibilities to see what's going to work. Because I found some places the modern electronic stuff zilch, but then if you go in with, I don't know, even sprinkling like talcum powder on the floor, go away, and you come back and you find the talc's been moved. So I mean, one of my favorite things to do is triggers. So if I'm going somewhere I know there was lots of children, I'll take some children's toys with me. If I'm going somewhere that, say, when we did Tibenham, the gliding club that Biff was talking about, 1940s big band music, had that playing. So I try and think ahead a bit about what might make them go, oh, I'm comfortable coming out to talk to you. So it really depends. I say I will use what's going to work and make for an interesting investigation.
Yeah. Which
and yes, my light is flickering. My light is flickering because I think there's a storm brewing outside. It's not anyone trying to communicate.
Okay, Biff says too many people use the spirit box to fit their agenda. So many investigators go 100. It said that, and I'm thinking, never heard of that. Yeah, a lot of people with spirit boxes, they say, "Did you hear Get Out?" As soon as they've said that, they play it back. You hear Get Out, don't you?
Yeah, it's inferred. I mean, what I like to do when I did Bosworth Hall, and I heard this. I was recording it at the same time, and I heard the spirit box use one of the nicknames for one of the Dixie Barons.
Yeah.
Bo, I think it was, and the husband didn't hear it. He was on the other side of the room, so I played him back the recording. Now I'd written down what I'd heard, not telling him what I'd heard. Played it back to him, and he said, "Sounds like Bo or Ben."
Yeah.
And I put down Bo. So that's how I would prefer to do that, is if I record what I've heard, or if I've heard it, I've clocked what I've heard, then I'll say to the person, what did you hear? And if they say that, it's like when you suddenly get a smell in a place, it's the same principle. So if I smell, so I was in one place and it was like burning rubber all of a sudden, there's no reason for it. And I could smell, it was really strong. And it was my husband. I turned around to him and said, what can you smell? And he went, it's burning rubber. And it was exactly, so unless there's some kind of telepathic connection, I tend not to say what it is I'm smelling or what I've heard. I'll say, did you hear that? And if they say no, fine. If they say, yes, I heard a laugh. And if that's, so I'll always ask the question without giving them what the answer was that I heard, almost like as a test.
Yeah. Okay, Emily says, my best personal feeling experiences have been at the Paranormal Research Centre. They've been stronger there than anywhere else. Thanks, Emily.
We love Emily, and I'd just like to say congratulations on your degree, Emily.
Yeah. Well done.
Well done.
She's a clever little sausage, that one.
She certainly is. Yeah, Emily.
And she likes my books, so she's very clever.
Yeah, she mentioned earlier about your books. Oh, and Biff says, I hope they're going to be signed. Your books.
Pardon?
Biff says, I hope the books will be signed.
I could never say no to the Biffs.
They're £2 cheaper when Penny signs them, though, Biff.
Yeah, no, I have to pay for the ink,
So of course, the week after the ParaMeet, you're doing another talk at another festival, aren't you? Is it the week or 2 weeks after?
2 weeks. Yeah. So I've got ParaMeet, and then I'm another repeat visit, the Festival of the Unexplained. So and then in March, I'm doing something in Cornwall for Scary Southwest.
Oh, are you down there? Because we were down there this year.
I know your name that I gave to her is one of the possibles when she was looking for someone.
That was your fault.
Because I couldn't. It's my fault. Yeah. She asked me, and I couldn't do it. I was already booked up that weekend. And that's when she said, "Oh, I've watched some of your stuff. Could you do next year?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right." Oh,
that's good.
Okay, I'm game for it. And she said, "Can you think of anyone?" And I said, "Packer's good." Yeah. And then I saw you were on the list. Yeah. I think I said Packer and Jane are good is what I actually said, but yeah.
It was a little bit controversial for those Southerners that my talk, I think. But hey, little controversy, no problem.
Sorry, I'm losing you. Whether it's the storm we've got brewing here is causing issues with Wi-Fi. I'm not sure.
The internet's really playing up tonight. I don't know why. But hey, never mind. And there's only 10 more minutes.
But yeah, so September's busy. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing everyone. And then say March, the March one, I'm on the same bill as Kate Sherrill and Jane Harris.
Yeah. Girl power, that one then.
Scary.
It's going to be scary for the vendor, the people paying for the tickets. You three.
Oh yes, the Witches of Eastwick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might buy a ticket and heckle you all.
Well, knowing what Jane and I are like when we're filming Help My House is Haunted, we're very, very professional, but we do have little in jokes that
I can imagine.
And Kate Sherrill and I are sarcasm united when we're together. So yeah, it's going to be an amazing day. But I'm so chuffed that you guys have asked me back. I really do enjoy working with you. I'm looking forward to seeing Brownsover as well, because of its links to Frank Whittle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Now, I must admit, Brownsover Hall is a special place, and we went to have a look, didn't we?
We did, and Frank Whittle is still there.
Frank was.
It doesn't surprise me.
Frank was there.
It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, I read a book all about him a couple of months ago, and I feel very sorry for the guy, what he went through. Yeah. He was pushed way too hard, and he developed mental illness because of it. So he amazing man. Apparently, he was meant to be absolutely lovely. One of my day job clients met him back in the 80s, and he said he was one of the nicest guys you could meet. So that doesn't surprise me. But yes, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's got a load more history than that, but I'm looking forward to it for the aviation links and Frank Whittle.
Yeah. Well, when we went to look round, Neil and Julie were sitting talking with the lady, and I just sort of stretched my legs and I went to have a walk round the hallway, but they're actually doing filming, and I could see a man standing on the stairs, and I described it to Neil. I couldn't get in the hallway though to sort of talk with him or to do any work with him, because they were doing this filming and the hallway was sort of closed off. I was just standing in the doorway, and I went back and I said to Neil about this chap on the stairs, and I described him. And the lady that was sort of hosting our appointment, she actually got this book out about the history, and she gave it to us. And I was looking through this book, and there he was. The man that was standing on the stairs was actually in the book. That's what I said to Neil, that it's Frank Whittle on the stairs.
Wow. Well, I hope you introduce me to him.
Yeah,
because he's an amazing man. Amazing. And you say he was given a very rough deal, inventing the jet engine. And
yeah. So of course, last year you missed out on the Saturday, didn't you? Because you were. It was
my son's birthday. That's why I couldn't hang around. I had to get permission from him, because it was his 13th birthday that weekend. I had to get permission from him to be away on the Friday and come home on the Saturday. He was not impressed. He's now figured people actually know who his mum is, because he Googled me to see if I came up on Google, and I do. And he's kind of, now he's seen me on, when he first saw me and Help My House is Haunted and stuff, he's like, Mum's on telly. So yeah.
So at least this year you'll get to savor the atmosphere of ParaMeet.
Definitely looking forward to
it. Even if I say so ourselves, it was a special atmosphere to walk down the corridor, and you made this comment, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
To see all the people in there smiling and laughing and talking to people they've never met, and it is.
Yeah, the main hallway that goes through to from the sort of reception room. It goes through to the end room. The toilets are just off there, and you've got the rooms along the corridor there. Well, I came through from the bar, and I was standing at the bottom of the stairs, and I just took a moment and I just looked round, and the hallway was absolutely full, and everybody was smiling, chatting, welcoming old friends, making new friends. The atmosphere was just incredible, and that's the biggest thing that sticks in my mind from the ParaMeet. It wasn't anything particular with any one person, but it was the actual overall sort of atmosphere that was there, and how nice and everybody was, and how everybody was just so relaxed and enjoying it. There was no pressure, no stress. Nobody sort of got upset with anybody. And it was just so nice to see people smiling and chatting and hugging each other. And it was all that sort of thing. And it was brilliant.
Yeah, I obviously I didn't make it for the whole weekend last year, but I did at the Festival of the Unexplained, and that was like that as well. So going to be having that experience twice in 1 month. I'm actually going to have to be turning, my ice heart is going to have to melt, and I'm going to have to be nice to people.
We'll have to follow you around with a bucket.
Enough about my age.
It's going to be really nice having you there for the weekend, Penny.
Thank you. I am really,
very
really
much
looking forward to it.
To your talk.
Yeah.
But you know, I've got a big birthday coming up this month.
Oh no!
Big birthday. Ooh.
How big? We ask.
Really?
Fantastic.
You're still a kid, really, then, compared to me.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I don't feel it. And when some of the mums at school tell me, you're going to be half a century soon. Yeah, cheers, you little whippersnappers.
I had a team in the centre the other weekend, and the women were talking about age. It was such a team of women. They were talking about ages, and I said, well, how old do you think I am then? And this woman says, oh, I think 53.
I put you at least 10 years younger than I know you are.
I said, oh, I love you. And then another woman says, well, you can't be more than 54. And I says, I'm not knocking any money off the price, you know.
Well, I did happen to, I was filming for Help recently, and I happened to mention that I'm going on holiday at the end of July. We're going for 2 weeks to Crete. We've hired a villa, everything. I said, it's to celebrate my birthday. And Jane goes, oh, what are you going to be, 41, 42? And I was like, mate, I'm going to be 50. You are not. Well, actually, that wasn't the word she used. Jane used bad language. And I said, no, I really am. I was like, do you want me to show you my driver's license just to confirm it? So, yeah. But they follow me around with a bucket because of my age and sort of not being able to control myself anymore. Yeah.
Biff says you're 30, Penny.
He's not getting a discount on the book other than the discount I give to everyone. But and to answer your question, I haven't used anything about Tibenham. I have got an idea of a book that I might incorporate it in, but that's still kind of in the thought process.
Oh, right. Brilliant. So, okay, we're nearly out of time.
Oh, it's always fun. It's always fun chatting.
Yeah, it's lovely to chat to you again, Penny. It's so nice to see you again. And we will catch up soon at the ParaMeet.
You will. You'll be fed up with me by the end of that weekend. You'll be like, we're not having her back again.
You realise it's only about 8 weeks away.
I know. Well, my holiday's 3 weeks away, and I'm like, yeah, no, it's not. It's not long. It's not long.
Now, ask me if we're ready for the ParaMeet.
It soon comes round, though, doesn't it?
No,
you're never ready for this stuff. Even when I did the talk for you last year, I think you were still like procrastinating over stuff 24 hours beforehand. I'm not. Yeah, I expect you to. It will all come together. It all comes together on the night. But before I go, what's this Roku thingy? This ghost thingy channel thingy?
We have our own TV.
I'm turning into the podcaster now. I'm doing the interview.
You've been the guest so long now. Yeah, we have our own TV channel on Roku TV called Ghost Planet Network.
And how do people get hold of this?
You have to buy a Roku stick.
Still got the box.
The box is around somewhere. It's almost like a planned it look. You have to buy one of these. It just plugs into the back of the telly. These cost about 30 quid. But once you've got that, the Ghost Planet Network is free. So,
and how would they obtain one of those, Mr. Packer?
They can go to Amazon. That's the cheapest place.
Okay.
I think it's £28 in Amazon. But you can get them from Argos, and if you don't like internet shopping. So they're readily available.
And is this investigation that I'm going to be doing speed research on going to be going on the Ghost Channel?
Well, I'm actually planning for the ParaMeet to be the first live stream on the new channel.
Hey! I didn't know that, actually. If anyone's thinking that they...
Jane didn't know that either. No one knows that.
I just thought I'd ask it, knowing whether I've got to put makeup on or whether...
Yeah, go explain it now. The ParaMeet will be the first live stream on the new channel.
Hey, he heard that. That's an exclusive to people who are listening.
Exclusive on here.
Be good.
Yeah, I've got to work out how to do it, but we will do it.
Well, apart from all our guest speakers, what else have we got going on at the ParaMeet?
We got vendors, we got ghost hunts, we got investigations, we've got paranormal experiments, we got the Pandora's box, we got the confessional booth. All the speakers will be milling around to talk to. What else?
One of the things I'm really looking forward to is that we're actually all
seeing me. That's what you're looking forward to, seeing me.
Yeah.
Besides that.
But we're all on site for the whole weekend, and we've got the whole place all to ourselves. We're not sharing it with anybody. It's going to be great.
But what happens at Brownsover stays
at
Brownsover.
apart from what happens on the live feed.
Yeah, apart from what goes on camera. What's going on behind camera now? That's
you don't worry about that. You don't even think about what's going on behind. I'm actually really looking forward to the Friday night. Yeah. Because there's quite a few of the speakers, quite a few of the guests will be staying on the Friday night as well. So I think the Friday night will just be hopefully a chill out time for me to chill out a bit.
Yeah, and just catch up with everybody as well. Yeah. It'd be nice to just sit, in a room and just chat with people informally about anything and everything.
Definitely. That is, that's the nice part. There's no sort of worry that you're about to go up on stage or whatever. You could just chill. You can just have whatever you want it in your glass, whether it's Diet Pepsi or other drinks are available, or a beer or whatever, and just get to know people, make new friends.
Yeah, there's tea and coffee available both days, free. So it's going to be a fun day. I'm glad you're going to be there all weekend to experience.
I am.
Okay, and of course, Paul Stevenson's going to be there.
Oh God!
So that's the downside.
Actually, shouting out to those boys, Andy has done the cover to my new book, which I was promoting recently. The Stepping Forest.
Andy Saw is a genius.
He is a genius.
Especially now he uses AI.
To be honest, joking aside about Paul, I think they're both awesome. Paul believed in me long before I believed in me. So
you wouldn't meet a nicer couple. Well, nicer. That sounds right.
Or a geezers.
Nicer geezers team. There's Paul and Andy, and the other guys are all awesome as well. But Paul
has pushed me into doing things that I never would have thought were going to be available to me. So I owe him and Andy. Yeah, I owe a lot of people like yourselves. I owe belief in me and what I'm able to do, and to tell me stop being a prat and get on with it, and all of that kind of thing. I do owe that to a lot of you and all lovely people making comments on here and being nice to me and stuff. It's like, I will pay you all later. But it's always fun to get together with all of you lot, and Paul and Andy and all the other brilliant speakers that are going to be there. Like I say, some of them I've known online for a long time and never had the chance to meet. Some of them I do know personally, and it's and obviously a lot of the people coming along who've bought tickets I know.
So that's a nice thing, isn't it? I think Paul and Andy are staying on Friday night as well. So don't let Paul make you a cup of tea though, because he is absolutely chronic at making tea.
I don't drink tea. I only drink coffee.
All right.
He can't go wrong with instant coffee.
When he comes here on a Wednesday night, Jane will say, "Do you want a drink?" He'll say, black coffee with milk." I'm thinking, "What? You confused me straight away." But anyway, so we're going to say goodnight. Thanks very much for being our first guest leader.
Oh, thank you.
We got more. We got a guest on every Tuesday night, and we've even included some Thursday nights because I didn't realise it was so quick. So we got to do some interviews on Thursday nights as well. So to get everybody in.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone in 2 months' time, and yeah, it's going to be basically a party for 72 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
It's
what
gonna
that's
be
seriously that's what
awesome.
it is. So we're going to say goodnight to everyone, and thanks for watching. Thanks for Penny for coming and chatting as always.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you in September, Penny.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Yes.
As I'm going to end the broadcast now. Bye everybody.